What's up, guys? Welcome to the stream. We're doing a QA here with Yorch Torch. So kind of a last minute fill in. Duke, the original host, was not able to make it. So here I am. I'm Dean, also known as Sneed Cola. I do freshly starting a YouTube channel. I've got a Twitter, all that kind of stuff, just streaming and having fun. We also have Recon here, a producer here at It's Based, and Nameless, a fellow winner of the last Game Jam, and also It's
Oh,
Based staff. And obviously, we have Yorch himself. How you doing, Yorch?
Doing great. How are you doing, Dean? How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me here.
All right, so I guess let's tell the audience a little bit about yourself, anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a gamer. I've been a gamer for almost 4 decades now. As you can already tell by my accent, Spanish is my first language. I'm in Mexico, but I've always loved the United States. I've been traveling to the United States ever since I was a little kid, and I fell in love with the game stores over there, with the amount of titles that you could purchase back during the 90s, during the mid 2000s, and after something happened with gaming around 2014. Um, where I saw that things were not going in the right direction. And then it was a little bit funny because legacy media started to criticize and attack gamers. And that's when I immediately said, hey, there's things are really not going on well with gaming. I kept on gaming, doing my thing, but this year in particular, that's when I decided to start my X account, talking about games, which is one of my main passions, while also providing commentary and criticizing everything that is wrong, particularly with Western AAA gaming. And things really took off. I started with just it was around 35 followers, and now my account has exploded to more than 5K followers. My memes, a couple of them, perhaps you already you've seen my memes. Two of them reached 15 million impressions in less than a week.
Wow.
So it's phenomenal, and the reception. And now I'm able to share my thoughts in an amazing show like yours. So I feel honored, really. Huge thanks to the community and all of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're happy to have you. Um, I've definitely seen your account on my feed, so clearly the algorithm loves you, which is awesome. But I agree. Like, there's something truly magical for me about games from like the 90s and the 2000s, and I've also made some of the same observations you mentioned. And I would love to just get back to that, get back to the soul and the magic that gaming used to be that no longer is.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about gaming and what's so important about we generally think about games like it's just a hobby for you to spend some time just to chill. But I think games go beyond that, and particularly video games. They are a cultural powerhouse. There's no wonder why activists and woke CEOs and woke executives try to hijack game studios for a personal benefit. Again, because they really understood the power of video games. I think it's magical, just like you're saying. I think that games are also best whenever you share them with friends, with family. And that is one of the main reasons why I'm so against these games that are quote unquote games that promote confusion and depression. Like, for example, Life is Strange. I don't
Hmm.
think that's a positive message to gamers.
I agree. I completely
hmm
agree. I think they caught on to the fact that games were bigger and more popular than Hollywood, and so they became like the primary target for subversion. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree. The video games are a source of escapism, and they want to make sure that there's nowhere you can go to escape their woke messages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Bleak, but agreed.
Yeah, I
hmm
agree. And actually, I was preparing for this great conversation with you guys. And while doing that, I researched for the origin of the name game. And apparently, it comes from Old Germanic, could be gammon. And gammon means two things. It means fun and it means amusement. And I don't think that modern Western AAA gaming companies are providing amusing experiences. I've been really heavy on, for example, God of War Ragnarok as of late. That's a game that feels like a chore. That's a game that feels like propaganda. That all the gaming sections are just an excuse to tell a story that is not a good story. So there's nothing amusing about that game. And I think that's one of the main reasons why Nintendo has enjoyed massive success because they really know what makes gamers think. And I also think that many Eastern developers understand this particularly well. Gamers want fun experiences, they want uplifting stories, they want to have a great, amusing experience. And I don't think that Western AAA companies are doing that.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're a parent, I would say another boon would be for a Nintendo game. Generally, you can give it to your kids and not have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about any weird messaging or flags or whatever it may be. Nintendo games are pretty neutral. They don't seem political at all. There's some rare exceptions, like they have the what was it, the Paper Mario game, the remaster that just came out. It had a like a weird trans character like in the English translation or something like that. But otherwise, they're pretty safe, which is great.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that Xbox, well, particularly Microsoft and Sony, I think this is my guess. I mean, I'm a gamer, a regular gamer, just like you guys. I don't have any contacts within the industry, especially at the upper echelons. I don't have any of that. But I'm pretty sure that somewhere in Microsoft's or Sony's offices, they know that something's wrong with what they're trying to push. I mean, Sony, for example, they lost a lot of money. They lost what? What was it? 400 million while trying to develop and release Concord. I mean, that's just insane. And Nintendo, with a fraction of the cost, is creating games that are profitable. So I think that also, I mean, I'm going a little bit deeper into all of this. The Western AAA game model, in terms of a business model, I don't think that's sustainable. I think that game studios are bloating their budgets. DEI, all these DEI initiatives, they tend to be inflationary. When I say they are inflationary, is that you need to hire people or you need to hire DEI consulting companies, and that will automatically raise the price or raise the cost to develop a game. So it's harder for all these companies to turn a profit. So one of the things that I've been really vocal about is that all these big companies should be providing smaller experiences that are more affordable to produce, that are cheaper to produce, and that actually turn a profit. And that is going to be a win-win situation for everyone, for the game companies and for gamers as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think if memory serves, when they had that Sony leak a while ago, we saw some of the internal stuff from Insomniac, and I think a sizable portion of the Spider-Man 2 budget went down to DEI trainings and nonsense like that. So it's really insane that we even have to deal with this or even have to talk about this.
It's almost like it's on purpose.
Certainly.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, and we talk a lot about gamers as well, but I've noticed the most casual people as well are fed up completely. Before, when gaming was good, so to say the generations where we had great games, the good games were the mainstream games. Casual players would actually play these things. But I know my cousin who's not a gamer at all, even the Call of Duties and stuff don't excite him anymore, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of casual players aren't exactly outspoken on social media and such, but they speak through a different way. They protest through a different way, which is by not buying the game, which is what hurts the companies the most, and they deserve it. So,
which is exactly what's happening, but they're taking it oh, we don't have enough of this DEI shit in our game.
Yeah, well, now not to get too into the weeds on politics, but now that this election went the way that it did, it's kind of a popular mandate that I think people don't really want this shit anymore. Yorch, you mentioned memes of yours going viral and such. Are there any that you could show us on stream?
Yeah, definitely. Let me show my screen. I think this is going to be really interesting for all of you. Give me a second.
And I know, like Soslo, when he's been on here, he talked a lot about like the importance of marketing and hard it is actually to get the word out for like these minor games that are actually trying to make a difference. The things we do with the game gens and everything. So I think it's really important to have you on here as well to show people a little bit like the social media angle of it. Like, it is important to get your word out. It's one thing to make a game, but like even the Great Rebellion guy said, like you have to learn the marketing part as well. That's like one of the hardest parts as well. You can have a gem, but nobody knows about it.
Yeah. You can make the best game in the world, but it doesn't really mean anything if nobody plays it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can actually have a, let's say, a merely competent game, but if you have the best, or let's say a decent, I'll rephrase this. You can have a competent game match or supported by a decent, merely decent marketing campaign, and your game does have a chance to really take off. It doesn't take, I mean, it doesn't need that much in terms of the quality of your game. Now, I don't want to demean the effort that many game developers are doing with all of this, but just to stress the importance of marketing. You may have a merely competent game, but if you have a good marketing strategy, your game can actually turn a profit. I'm 100% with that. And something that I've seen, I'll be sharing my screen in just a second. I just got carried away with this. It's a fascinating topic. I'm really passionate about it. What I've seen over my time here on X and the time my account has exploded in popularity, I've been interacting with many game developers, and they tend to be, I have to be honest about it, they tend to be a little bit shy in terms of how to promote their game, in terms of how to build an audience, how to create a community, how to interact with their potential customers. And I think there are a lot of opportunities, and there are a lot of how should I put it? There are
Techniques?
I don't want to say it's a challenge, but there's definitely a room for improvement in terms of how game developers are marketing their games, and particularly with the
Absolutely.
way they and just real quick, just to wrap this up a little bit, something that I've noticed is that, and that has happened to me, I've reached out to game developers and asking them about their games, and they barely answer. Or, for example, they go into my replay section in one of my posts. They for example, go in and try to promote their game, which is perfect. I actually appreciate that. But then when I do a repost or I quote their game, or I've even live stream their game, there's no thanks. There's no, hey, let's keep on contributing, or there's no other interaction. And I'm not talking about gratitude. I'm talking about just interaction and just having giving themselves the opportunity to know more about their audience, because you can have the perfect game, the best game ever made, game of the year contender. It actually wins game of the year. But if you don't have a community, if you don't have friends and followers to support you, nobody's going to be playing your game. That's a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the indie space, it's extremely hard to break through.
Awesome. So this is what I do, and this is one of the first steps here. This is going to be a piece of advice for game developers and gamers who want to grow their gaming accounts, who want to grow their presence here on X. They need to have, or I will be saying, you guys need to have a compelling profile. A profile that communicates what are you doing. It doesn't suffice if you have, for example, an image of Sephiroth and that's it, or if you have a bio where you are just telling your audience who you are, but in terms of so guys, you really need to put some effort in your profile, in your banner, and also in your biography, you need to invite someone to follow you. And just because you're making a game, that doesn't mean that people will immediately follow. People won't follow you, or they will not be smashing that follow button if you are not providing something for them. It is not about just providing a game. It is not just providing platitudes or just providing commentary. You really need to tell your audience what's in it for them. So, for example, in my case, you have my profile pic, you have Reclaim Gaming centered. That's a message. That's a strong message that I want to communicate. And I don't only want to reclaim gaming myself. I want to reclaim gaming with all of you because that's an important mission. So we're talking about missions here. Your game is a mission. It's a mission of who you are. So you need to be communicating what is your goal. Why are you on Next? Why people should be following you. That's extremely important. And then, for example, here in my biography, I have retrogradness and indie creativity over modern mediocrity, showing modern AAA games how it's done, one level at a time, join the retro and indie revolution. So you have the call to action right away. Join the retro and indie revolution. So you need to have something like that in your profile. That's basically marketing 101. And then your account has to be all about you. Something that I've noticed is there are many how should I put it, accounts where you only see repos of other accounts. You don't see any commentary. You don't see anything that's going behind the scenes. These are just repos. So your account has to really be about yourself. What do you think about a particular event? What do you think about a particular game? Something really important. I know that we are on the culture war. I know that we are on the base side of things. I know that we want to reclaim gaming while also being kind to fellow gamers. And we want to reclaim gaming from DI initiatives. But never forget that you're a gamer. So you should be talking about games. So for example, if you scroll over my account, you'll see that I have videos, that I have pictures, that I interact with my audience. If I go over here, this is very important, particularly if you're a game developer. Every single comment is gold. Treat your followers like royalty. Every person will eventually buy from you, but in order for you to get to that point where somebody's buying from you, you first need to make friends. People like to buy from friends. They do not want to be cold DM'd in order to purchase something. That's not the way that this works. X, the social platform, is all about friends. So make sure you're making friends. Treat your followers not like followers. They are your friends. Treat them like royalty. Every single comment has to have a reply. And something that's really important about this is once you get verified, you absolutely need to get verified, is that you may enter X's monetization program. So that means that you may earn some side income next to what you're doing, and you can use that side income to fund your games. So that's basically how it works. You need to have an interesting account, have videos, talk about games, have memes, create your own memes. And the last thing that I'm going to say about all of this is you need to have a couple of long form posts. You need to create a thread where it could be a list, it could be some sort of article or a collection of articles, so that people you need eyeballs on your account. I hope all of this makes sense. I highly encourage you, both game developers and gamers, to really put some thought on the way that you're interacting with X. And it all starts with having an interesting profile and an interesting account.
Yeah, that is some awesome advice.
Yeah.
I'm a game developer and I have got an X account. I got nothing on there though, so maybe I definitely have to listen to this.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just real quick, perhaps I could zoom it. Somebody's asking me to zoom in. Okay, there you go. So that's a bio over there. It all starts with a good bio.
Go ahead,
So it came down from the boss. He wants to know what you think of the it's-based Twitter and how it could be improved. Or X, I should say. I shouldn't dead name X.
That's really interesting. So you mean going to his profile? Is that what you mean? Into the
Be brutal with us. It's fine. I come from sales as well. I care about this stuff. I love honesty. It's meritocratic, you know. Just get into it.
Scorched earth.
Kill us.
Hit it hard.
Yes, do it.
Napalm strike this.
Okay, there you go, guys. So this is going to be some free advice. I usually
Let's do it.
for it. But anyway, you guys invited me. So here it goes. Okay, so that's a sales pitch. If you need some professional advice, I'll be more than glad to sit down with you and talk about your profile. But anyway, here's a free one because you guys invited me and you've been so kind. So the first thing here is your banner is just a controller. There's nothing there. I mean, you guys are based. Whenever I see it's based, it has to be something about the Roman Empire, about America, about the founding fathers, about family, tradition, and eating, and beautiful wives, and strong sons. All of that, that's what makes something based. And I don't see any of that. I actually see a controller of a brand that's going down, honestly, which is Sony. So there's nothing in your banner that it's telling me this is a based podcast. This is a based show that I want to follow. There's nothing there. And then you have this profile pic, which is fine. I mean, you can leave it that way. You don't have to put some a real face over there. That's fine. We're in the gaming community. But again, I think there's a disconnect between your profile pic and your banner, and the banner is not telling me something. It's not telling me anything. And then the last thing over here, which is really important, you have promoting indie games and hosting game jams. Guys, but you're based. How come you're not reinforcing that message? Tell gamers why you're based. Why are you promoting indie games? What's wrong with the gaming industry so that it needs base games? What are Western AAA companies not doing right? So that means there's demand for base games, and I don't see it anywhere. So definitely put some thought into it. And again, a call to action would definitely help you guys. You're already verified. That's good. That's always step number one. Guys, gamers, game devs, get verified on X. If you do not get verified on X, you won't be able to monetize. I don't care if the woke are laughing at you because they're telling you that you pay for X, which should be a free app. Again, subscribe to X for a couple of reasons. One,
like I can tell from our perspective, from its based, once we got verified, like the amount of engagement, like went 10x or something. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, that is true. And something really important over there. The replies. Okay, here's how it goes. Your replies get a boost. Something important to mention here. Everybody's focused on content. So for example, when you're a young account, you want to focus on creating videos, creating memes, creating long form posts. The best way to tackle X is if you are a reply guy. That's the best strategy. Because once you get verified, same thing like happened to you guys. Once you start replying, your replies will go all the way to the top of the thread, and people will be able to interact with you because you are the first comment on a particular post. So no wonder why your account started to get traction. So definitely play the replay game. It's highly rewarding. And the last thing that I'm going over here, guys, with your content, I think that you're doing a great job over here. Perhaps feature more games from small game devs. You're retweeting, for example, Reload Engine. I love that project, but you can just not only just repost it, but quote it. And I mean, if you keep doing that, if you're being consistent on all of this, you will definitely break the 5K follower mark in less than 3 months easily.
What's important about the 5K follower mark?
Okay, that's important. Thank you for asking that. In X, there are certain thresholds. Like, for example, the 500 follower mark, that's a very important one, because once you get 500 verified followers, I'm giving you up-to-date advice. So X used to be about, if you wanted to monetize on X, you needed to have only 500 followers. But now, if you want to monetize on X, you need to have, well, first of all, get verified. Second, get 500 verified followers. So that's going to be like your first threshold, your first achievement. Then you go to the 1K mark. For some reason, we are decimal creatures, sort of saying. So we like to think in terms of 100, 1,000, 10,000. So with 1,000, that means that you're making it. You're increasing your credibility. But what happened to me now that I reached the 5K follower mark, so for example, if I go to my profile, just real quick, I'm about to get to 5,200 followers. I immediately noticed, as soon as I posted for example here, either a meme or a comment on a repost or a quote, whatever, then right at the 20-second mark or 30-second mark, I start seeing reposts. That happened to me as soon as I passed the 5K follower mark. Perhaps this happened a little bit before because I've been growing way too fast, to be honest. But that's the reason why I'm mentioning 5K.
That's all really great advice. It's really interesting. Some of those I didn't even know about, like the follower benchmarks and milestones and such. So it's very interesting to hear.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, so I think Tribeard, if you want, you can end the screen share unless you had something else for that, Yorch.
Do you want to see my analytics? I can be extremely open and transparent for you guys.
Sure, if you want to.
Yeah, that would be fun. Go on.
Okay, sure. Give me a second here.
It's a great tool as well. Oh, sorry, go on. No, it's just a great tool. Like all of these things you talk about, actually, I know a lot of people ignore this stuff, but you should track these things. You should also do like A and Bs, like different kinds of content to see actually how it reacts and see how it affects your social media. I know this kind of stuff is almost always something I know gamers or game developers avoid, but it's important. Like it's really important to actually get your name out there and dig deep into the analytics because it actually shows you a lot. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, definitely. Analytics are incredibly powerful, and especially I saw this comment here on the chat. Absolutely agree. If we really want to reclaim gaming, we need to support smaller accounts, and those smaller accounts really need to devote themselves to grow. And the best way to grow, again, is to get verified and to take a look at your analytics to see what is really resonating with your audience, with your friends. Because otherwise, if we do not have enough anti-woke or non-woke voices, then there's no traction to the movement. There are many outstanding accounts out there who are part of the anti-woke movement. You know who those guys are. Huge shout out to Stuttering Cray, to Grumps, to Smash JT. All these guys are enduring this amount of, let's say, of vicious attacks, and they cannot be alone. We need to support them. We need to nurture our community. We need to make friends. That's the only way in which this movement can grow, and that's the only way in which these big companies will realize that they are doing something wrong, because the voices are not a minority anymore. All these non-woke voices really have something to say. They are organized, they help each other grow, and that's the way in which gaming will have a bright future. So, going back to my analytics, just real quick, you can see that I'm in red right now. There's a reason for that. Let me show you. These are my analytics over 3 months. It may not look like much. Let me take a look at my impressions. Yeah, let me show you my impressions. Here's what happened with my memes. I'll hover over here. In one day, 2 of my memes reached 7 million impressions, almost 8 million impressions. If you want to get verified on X, one of the requirements besides having 500 verified followers is having 5 million impressions over a span of 3 months. But I gained more than that in just one day. So that's how powerful X is. And here are my analytics over this 3-month period, which is the period where my count really exploded. Went to 40 million impressions. My engagement rate has been going up. Profile visits, new follows. Perhaps you may say, well, you have more than 100K profile visits, but you only have 5K follows. That's the reason why I'm saying if you want to convert visits to followers, that means you need to really put an effort on having a professional looking profile. And something that's really important here about the profile visits is that people, whether they are on your side or not, whether they are on the anti-woke side or they are on the woke side, all of them will be visiting you. So that doesn't mean that every single person would follow you. And that is the reason why it's so important to have valuable content, to have content that triggers an emotion, to have content that resonates with your audience, because otherwise you will not have profile visits, and much less, and in a lesser proportion, you won't be having profile new follows. So those are my analytics. I don't know, guys, if you have any other questions. I've been talking a lot about all of this.
No particular questions for me. Just kind of impressed at how good they are. I do have something from the boss, though. He wants to know what your plan is going forward, I guess, to continue to grow. Is it just the same strategy that you mentioned, or are you going to employ anything more? Do you have anything else in the works to further engagement?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that question has many questions rolled into one. So the first one, the long-term plan, it's helping small accounts. Well, first of all, help gamers have an account on X, help them to get verified, help them to grow, so that this movement really gains traction. And it is not, and obviously having this noble mission is important, but also the whole community can monetize their accounts, they can earn. So everybody will not only be providing or following a commendable and important mission, which is to reclaim gaming, but they will also be earning money on the side, which I think it's huge benefit for everyone. So that is one of my short-term goals. Later on, as this movement keeps on gaining traction, definitely interested in helping small game developers, helping them to develop the games and publish their games, and helping them with their marketing efforts. I think that there's a huge gap. I've talked with many, this is important to mention. I've talked to guys who have worked for EA, who have worked for Activision, and they are no longer with those companies, and obviously they're completely anonymous. But they are working on indie games. They've reached out to me, and the constant theme is that there are many tools to create a game. There are many assets that you can use to create your game. There are many people out there who are creating games, who are artists, who are talented programmers. but there's a huge gap when it comes to marketing. So that's definitely a service, and that's definitely something that I want to offer the entire gaming community, because we need more games. We need games that truly resonate with audiences and that are pure games, that they are not polluted with all this propaganda and DEI messaging.
Yeah, I agree. It's easier now more than ever to build games, and it seems like with X and the way that Elon and the way that it's being handled right now, it's almost easier than ever to promote your games now too, especially for indie games.
Yeah, exactly. And something that's important also to keep in mind, this is a business. I mean, games started as a business. There's no denying that. I know that there's the whole conversation whether games are art or not, but if you treat them like a business, that means that you're treating them responsibly. You won't be treating games like a political platform. I think that what happened with gaming and with the entire gaming landscape is that all these big Western AAA game companies became way too addicted to cheap ESG DEI credits, because we lived for a long period of time. We lived under a low interest economy. And the problem with a low interest economy is that money is cheap. So all these companies can get access to credits that are really cheap. And they start focusing on growth instead of focusing on profit. And that's a very irresponsible way to look at business, because business at their core, they are meant to be profitable. So if you want to create a game, that's perfectly fine. If you want to send a message by not aligning yourself to the woke or going against the woke, all of that is perfectly fine. But remember that you need to turn a profit. Your game has to be sustainable. Your business model has to be sustainable, because everybody will win in the long run. That's a fantastic question. If you could make your dream game, what would that be? Right away, right off the bat. I don't know if you guys ever played Comic Zone on the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive. Well, Comic Zone it's one of the best games ever made, in my opinion.
It's very hard. Good game, though.
Yeah, it's a hard game. But if I could make a spiritual successor to that game, I know that there's a lot of interest in comics. I know that there's a lot of interest in, well, there used to be. They failed miserably with the MCU and all of that stuff. But let's say that there used to be interest in Marvel and all of that. But I think that there's a lot of room for comic books, and there's a lot of room to merge comic books with video games. And that would definitely be my dream game, a spiritual successor to Comic Zone.
Pretty based answer. You don't hear Comic Zone too often these days. I'm a fan of that.
Thank you for that.
You know, I think that's definitely part of the golden era, in my opinion. You know, anything like 90s and 2000s, and you know, the Sega Genesis, as we call it here in the States, was certainly part of that.
Absolutely. And there's something that I would like to add, and this goes a little bit into the generational and cultural aspects of gaming. This was a terrible blunder, and I don't see many gamers talk about this. One of the worst mistakes that Sony and Microsoft in particular did with gaming is that when they started to cater to the woke and the activists and the Rainbow Moth and all these different groups, is that they broke the generational chain of their products and of their franchises. Here's what I mean by that. This is very important to talk about. You have, for example, in the case of Xbox, you have Gears of War. The first Gears of War trilogy is fantastic. I consider it one of the best trilogies ever. So the people who grew with Gears of War, they are now parents. So the logical thing to do for a parent is to transmit to your child the games that you used to have fun with. In this case, Gears of War, or for example, Halo is another great example. Assassin's Creed, a really good example. So all these companies, what they did is they started to corrupt these properties. They started to corrupt these, to distort these IPs. in order to cater to the woke. But the problem is that the woke, for the most part, they do not want to raise kids. They do not want to raise children. So there's not a generational chain that reinforces the franchise. And that is one of the main reasons why they are failing spectacularly. Because if you're a father, let's say that you're a family man, you want to play games with your son or with your daughter, you won't be playing the most recent Halo because it's already filled with political messaging. Same, for example, Star Wars Outlaws or Assassin's Creed Shadows or Dragon Age: The Veilguard, all of these games. And that's a huge problem because if you want to build a sustainable business, if you're a game company and want to build a sustainable business, you need to reinforce that generational chain. The Star Wars franchise had it. Parents and grandparents were grew up with those franchises and they transmitted to generations. You cannot break that. That's a terrible business model.
That is a great point.
Yeah, Star Wars, it's a real shame, you know.
Oh yeah.
Because you were right. Like people from the 70s and onward loved Star Wars. Kids, parents, grandparents alike. But all the woke can do is destroy. So of course they destroyed that franchise. Also, shameless plug. We'll be streaming here again on Saturday, and I'll actually be playing the 2004 Star Wars Battlefront. You know,
cool.
one of the good ones. So
I'll
that'll be
tune
fun.
into that.
Absolutely.
I have a question here that I totally thought of myself, and the boss didn't give it to me or anything. How many hours a day do you spend growing your social media?
It has to be around. They're not consistent in the sense that they are not back to back, but I would say probably between 5 and 6 hours. I no more than that. I do have a 9 to 5.
So I've got one here. If you could bring back one discontinued game franchise, what would it be? I know we mentioned Comic Zone, so I don't know if you'd pick that, bringing that back over making a spiritual successor or not.
I'm thinking about that one. Give me a second.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I was tuning out. What was the question?
Oh yeah, definitely. Anything that's related to Sam Fisher from Ubisoft, from Tom Clancy and Splinter Cell. For sure.
Right.
We need those games. We definitely need those. They're incredibly based. They reinforce patriotism. I love those games.
What was the last Splinter Cell? It wasn't Blacklist, was it? Was there one after that? Yeah, I remember playing the first one. It was new. It was so different, you know, from anything else I had played before that. You know, I kept just trying to run and gun, and it didn't work.
Technically, what's that Call of Duty game that's anti Call of Duty that's out right now? They have a Splinter Cell faction in the game.
So X Defiant.
Yeah, there you go. It's X Defiant.
Oh, they have like factions based on various like Ubisoft or like Tom Clancy titles, but all the characters are super woke. There's actually not a single white person in the whole game, and there's not a single obviously not a single white man either in the whole game. They're all like brown women and such.
Well, I think there is, but they're masked, so it's like plausible deniability.
Nope, not even. They're Latino.
Oh.
Yeah, they. You know, and X Defiant at its core is actually not even a bad game. I played it a decent bit, but it's free to play, and I wouldn't give it a dime because they really went way out of their way to exclude me.
Mm-hmm.
And just real quick, another franchise that I would definitely would like for it to make a comeback, Earthworm Jim. We sorely miss Earthworm Jim.
Was 3D the last one, or did they have one after that?
There was 3D was the last one. Then there was an attempt for a PSP game. Yeah, I think it was around 2005, 2006, if I remember correctly. And there was a remaster on PS3. And there's nothing. I think it was announced. A game studio talked about it, but I haven't seen anything on that as of late.
Yeah, that's sad. Earthworm Jim was a cool one. It was always I grew up with, I think, 2 on the Super Nintendo, and it was always really wacky. Like, when I was a little kid, I was trying to make sense of it. I'm like, how does this, like, what is the cohesion here? But I guess, like, that's kind of part of the charm is, like, there really isn't any. Like, you can go, every level is completely different.
Right. Oh, and Unreal Tournament, that's one thing that I will never forgive Epic Games. They ditched Unreal Tournament in favor of Fortnite. Unreal Tournament would also make a good franchise for it to return.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I don't know. The last Unreal Tournament I remember was like the PS3 era.
Yeah, it was Unreal Tournament 3.
Yeah, never got the opportunity to play any of those. They always looked cool, but I didn't really have much money back then. I had to be very, very selective. It's always unfortunate when you miss out on something when it's new.
Right.
And I guess I have one other question I got. I've been told you have a website that tracks your backlog.
Oh, that's interesting. You guys really did your homework. Yeah, that's okay. I know that we're about to wrap up, if I understand correctly. But just real quick, I'm a software developer, and I originally created this. Well, it's my website, torchrift.com, and I coded all the way from the ground up a backlog manager. I haven't supported that ever since. The reason for that is that after doing trial and error and testing and having conversations with gamers and users, gamers want to play games. They don't want to keep track of the games that they've been playing. They just want to launch a game. That's it. It's one of these ideas that looks really good on paper, having a tracker where you can track your games and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you implement it and in the execution and the actual, how should I put it, the usage, it doesn't really take off.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see the utility of a backlog tracker, but for me, it's almost like I have so many in the backlog that I could probably beat 3 of those games in the backlog by the time it took me to catalog all of them and organize them.
Exactly. I mean, if you ask me, there's a better market if you want to develop tools for streaming or anything that's related to streaming assets. That's a much better market than game backlog trackers.
Yeah, definitely an interesting thought. You haven't said anything in a while, Recon. You got anything?
Yeah, the problem is I'm having some audio issues, so I'm hearing actually like half what you're saying, and the reason why I'm like in a weird place is like I'm outside my home, so I don't wake my wife right now because it's in Sweden, and it's pretty late, more or less, or my daughter for that matter. So it's been a little bit hard to actually keep up in this conversation.
That's right. That's right. We got Recon's handsome face for all of our advertising.
There you go.
That's all we need. That's all we need. We got to change the picture on social media, though. We can't have that. The man has spoken. We're gonna kick Duke's ass about this. I'm telling you. Thanks, Yorch. Finally, somebody said it. Somebody had to say it.
Right.
All right. I don't know if there's any last minute questions, but otherwise, I think we're gonna wrap up. I guess we'll tell everyone where to find us. Recon, where can we find you?
I pretty much with Duke run the It's Base Game Jam, so that's at It's Base Game Jam. That's our account on Twitter. That's where we're mostly. We also have a YouTube. It's Based Official. That's an at before that. Same thing on Rumble. We upload edited videos over there, and also the live streams are kind of nicer to look at if you go there. So you should subscribe. I've been nagging people to do that, and they haven't been good. So you need to subscribe now. Thanks. Also like and all that stuff. Get the algo going.
Sounds good. What about you, Nameless?
Well, I'm on Discord. I'm on X too, but I'm not too active. I probably should, take all these tips and tricks to make my account and things. I'm just a little game developer monkey in the corner building games and stuff. So not very much social media guy, but I'm a lurker. You could find me on Jamcast Discord though. I'm active there and I talk and stuff. So yeah, you can find me there.
Awesome. And then Yorch?
Yeah, well, you can reach out to me over at X. You can definitely DM me. I love making friends over in X. My handle is Tinkerer Yorch, or my account, which is Yorch Torch Games. Yeah, let's reclaim gaming.
Awesome, sounds
Absolutely.
good. And I'm Dean, otherwise known as Sneed Cola. Feel free to find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. And if we can continue this conversation. We'll be in our Discord. Feel free to follow the link if you want to talk to Yorch and hear his answers firsthand. But otherwise, thank you guys for coming out. This was fun.
Thank you guys. Really
Thanks so
appreciate it.
much.
Absolutely.
Take care. Bye bye.